Is AI going to chat with other AIs behind the scenes without you in the loop? Believe it or not, that might be the future for industry leaders.
I think that there's so much more to come. And as they become more and more sophisticated and you can ask them to do more and more things on your behalf, I suspect that's when it will really start mainstreaming.
If you put sensors inside your fridge to see what's in there, and it has Alexa, and then you can ask Alexa anywhere in your home, like, what's in my fridge? I can definitely see that happening. In this final episode with Jason Thompson, SVP Innovation at Mintel, we explore the cutting edge of AI integrations from ChatGPT operators to personal AI team members. If you want to stay ahead of the next wave, watch on. Yeah, I feel like for a lot of kind of our clients and people out there generally, everyone's aware that there's something going on with generative AI and ChatGPT, mostly because of that first moment when it just took off. End of 22 or 23. But since then, I don't know that people have been absorbing every single update. And I feel like the operator thing, which is like the first agentic AI that kind of works, is another milestone. But I don't know that it's works so reliably that it's as viral.
I think you're right. So, and actually, I think it's difficult to use. Or you can't access it unless you've got the $200 subscription.
Right.
So if you think about it, perhaps right now, we're just coming out of the stage where people were going from dial-up modems to broadband.
Right.
Or maybe even before that. Certainly, if you think about timelines.
Yeah.
Perhaps we're still in the dial-up modem phase if you compare it back to the internet. And I think that there's so much more to come, and it will become more mainstream. Perhaps when Apple cracks it, perhaps when Apple makes it so frictionless that people just use it, and maybe then people won't even be calling it AI. They'll just be calling it how their phone works or something. But you're absolutely right. People won't be keeping up to date with it, and there's no reason for them necessarily. But there will be some big things that suddenly change, or gradually change, that will then change how people look at it, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it's going to be though, like, because really, in theory, it's actually behind the scenes technology, a little bit like the cloud.
Yeah.
And so one impact is just like there was this transition from hosting your own servers to using cloud providers.
Yeah.
It's some things might happen behind the scenes, but most people aren't aware. It's really like the ChatGPT interface, which is like the consumer facing, a ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude.
You might be right, but when your fridge starts talking to you and suggesting what you should have for dinner, and I know there are people doing that kind of thing right now.
Right.
Or when they fix Alexa, which I heard they're doing imminently.
Right.
Or when they fix Siri, so Siri can actually do more useful things and understand what you mean. That will be obvious.
Yeah.
But it'll probably also be subtle.
Right.
In as much as you've already got Alexa and you've already got Siri. But when they suddenly start working and doing much more useful things, I think that's when it might hit people more generally. And as they become more and more sophisticated and you can ask them to do more and more things on your behalf, I suspect that's when it will really start mainstreaming.
I can see that.
I think it will happen as well. Within 5 years, I think actually, and probably a lot quicker.
Yeah.
It's maybe that personal interaction that will really make people sit up and take notice.
I can imagine, Alexa's already in a lot of devices. I can imagine, if you put sensors inside your fridge to see what's in there, and, it has Alexa, and then you can ask Alexa anywhere in your home, like, what's in my fridge? I can definitely see that happening. And I think in that case, Amazon had built out that ecosystem with the appliance manufacturers to put Alexa in these things, and then I guess comes down to the appliance manufacturers to put various sensors or other things in.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's Apple's got Apple Home and Google's got the Google thing or Nest or whatever it is. I'm not quite sure, but you could imagine that science fiction future where you walk around the house and talk to your appliances and that's how you deal with everything. But I think you're right. Amazon probably still have an advantage if they can jump on that.
Yeah. And then in terms of like our organizations, are we then the fridges connecting into the ecosystem?
I do think that's a possible, if not a likely, outcome.
Right.
Is that actually there'll be the big infrastructure platforms, which will be Microsoft, Google, maybe ChatGPT, maybe OpenAI, and that they will help. They will connect lots of different services together.
Yeah.
And so we need to work, for us, I think we need to work on the uniqueness and quality of what we do and how we can be fast at making it available in the right way.
Yeah.
Because I think there is still a big advantage to moving quickly.
Right.
And if you can, not too quickly, because if you're the first, then it doesn't necessarily help. Maybe wait until you can see what's going to happen. But I do think you're right. I think we're not. So we built our own question and answer chatbot, and just like as we were talking at the beginning, there's always going to be different people that want to do different things in different ways.
Yeah.
But my bet is the predominant way will be some of the big platform providers being your user interface, and then you need to have ways to connect into that ecosystem.
Right.
I think that might happen.
Right.
Are you seeing any? We're not seeing particularly any hints of that right now.
No, I mean, I feel like the commercial, there needs to be some kind of commercial arrangement for any organization, Mintel or PreScouter, or any organization to make their data accessible in another platform. And I don't know if that's kind of
the way we've done it is in our ChatGPT. So we haven't released this, but we've got prototypes for it in our ChatGPT and in our Copilot plugin.
Yeah.
What happens is you start using the plugin, and it requires you to log in.
Yeah.
And then when you log in, it gives you access to the content that you have available.
Okay.
And so it's still coming to us for it. So it's got all the constraints and restrictions, and you need to have a commercial agreement with us.
Right.
Maybe longer term, there's a marketplace or something, but
right.
But yeah, so I think that's one way to do it. But of course, we've got syndicated research services.
Yeah. So in that particular case, the client will have both the ChatGPT or Copilot and the Mintel login, and then essentially that interface is just logging.
So you could think of it like before they used the internet but had to buy a Mintel subscription to access Mintel. Now they're using AI as the user interface instead of the web, and they have to have a Mintel subscription in order to use our knowledge.
I do wonder though if these interfaces become like not lead generation but like starting points. Again, it depends on how sophisticated the chat interfaces become.
Yes.
Right. So if they can magically create their own UI, then maybe that's what we need. But
we've seen some of this in the cloud-based data platforms. So Snowflake and I'm sure Amazon, they've got they're trying to encourage data providers to make their data available in their data ecosystem.
Right.
And it's only had, as far as I'm aware, they've only had moderate success in that. It sounds like a really good idea, but maybe people are slow to catch on. I think it will be the same thing here. But you'll still need to market your services with your people and your marketing and your website and your
Right.
but maybe, in fact, definitely some of the people you'll be marketing to will be AIs,
Right.
because AIs are I mean, they're currently definitely being used for discovery. When we look at traffic to the Mintel store, what we see is massively increasing traffic from AI tools.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but from a very, very low base. But it's like 500% a month or something. I made that up, but it's something like that.
So when you say the Mintel store, what
Also, we sell market research reports online, and you can come and buy a market research report. And people can discover it by searching on Google or by coming to Mintel and finding it. Now, actually, we're getting traffic from people asking ChatGPT and Perplexity about, and maybe they're asking them about which Mintel report should I buy to help me with this,
Right.
or maybe they're asking them about, I want to do some market research. Where can I buy market research from, or something?
Yeah.
Like that.
So those are different to scrapers who scrape it once. These are actually per request coming in.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. And there is HubSpot's. HubSpot's got an agent platform, and they had a really cool agent. I'll send you a link after this.
Yeah, sure.
A really cool agent that what would do is it would use Gen AI to look at your website as if someone had asked for a report on Mintel. You know, what are the pros and cons of using Mintel?
Right.
And so the same kind of thing that people do if they're using Perplexity or ChatGPT to discover services for consumption. Yeah. So they give you a report and they compare you against a competitor. And then you can use that to understand, well, this is what I need to do with my own marketing on my website. And this is the message that I need to get out into the social media spheres.
Right.
But that's already happening. So people are already using AI to discover services. And at the moment, that's manually directed, human directed. But in the future, you could imagine that will be somewhat automated.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll send you the link afterwards.
Sure. So I guess in terms of, I think Mintel is, I think also PreScouter, but we're really like pushing at the edge of what's possible with AI. I think 90% of companies are sort of tiptoeing in.
That's my experience as well.
Yeah. So how do you think those tiptoeing type companies should think about AI? What strategy should they use? Or what do they?
I'm not sure. I mean, I would just say start as soon as possible.
Right.
So, the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago, and the second best time is today.
Right.
I would suggest that if people are thinking about it, they should start putting some effort into it. And the tools are getting better and better, but it's still a learning curve and there's still a skill to develop. So we're looking at rolling out generative AI. So we have a lot of people using kind of personal productivity tools and using ChatGPT on an ad hoc basis. But in the next few months, we're looking at rolling that out more in a more formal way and helping people to get the most out of it. People are already getting value out of it, but kind of in an ad hoc way. And that, just try it.
Yeah.
It's probably for those people who aren't yet. But actually, I think the real benefits come when you deliberately help everyone get the most out of it. And so that's the phase we're moving into. Internally for our own products and services, it's becoming part of pretty much everything we do. It's a tool, a capability that is working its way into all of our products and services. Yeah.
So when you say kind of rolling it out more formally, is that sort of training, or how do you think about that?
It's making the right safe services available, because you still kind of have to do that by spending some money, and then a deliberate adoption strategy where you do help. So training, training, yes,
I feel like in many cases, there's like a lot of opportunity where there's like repetitive work, and to kind of address those use cases, it's kind of not just training, but you kind of need to dig into how the work is currently being done, figure out where the data flows are, the prompt engineering.
No, I think you're totally right. If when you start really looking to get value out of it, if you want to, if you want to get major benefits out of it, then I think you do need to take a much more deliberate approach, and because it doesn't really work saying, here, go and use this stuff, it helps.
Right.
And often the off-the-shelf tools aren't sufficient to connect the right data sources together and present it in the right way. And you don't want everyone going off and making up their own prompts for dealing with this stuff. So I think you're absolutely right. To really start getting value out of it, you do need to then adopt some kind of tooling or have some kind of developers available to connect things together. What are you thinking about?
Well, so typically, and so this is not the intention of the podcast, but typically when we work with clients on these types of things, what we notice is that there is kind of a knowledge gap in understanding the capabilities, and so we're kind of almost doing like user research.
Yeah.
And when we do the user research, through that we can figure out, okay, this is where the opportunity is, and then, okay, if you're using, ChatGPT or Copilot or even our tool Auxee, then you can basically code it. You need the prompts, you need the APIs and data flows.
Yeah.
Is this something that is going to be scheduled to run on a weekly basis? Is this being triggered by an email dropping in an inbox? And so you kind of have to. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity actually in this sort of in this sort of
it's like business process in engineering.
Yeah, right.
I think you're right. We've started to do that, but we're still mostly doing it in an ad hoc way at the moment.
Yeah.
A lot of our focus on AI has been about building it into our products and services.
Yeah.
But actually, I think you're right. There's a huge opportunity to take a more structured approach to unlocking productivity internally.
Yeah.
And the tools that are available are becoming better and better as time goes on. So I think there is an opportunity there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, do you have any other advice or things you would share with other leaders at organizations?
I don't know. I've been focusing a lot on what we're doing.
Yeah.
What am I seeing that's done well? So I speak to a lot of different companies, just technical contacts in companies to find out what they're doing. And you're absolutely right. Most aren't doing as much as we're both doing. But there are some that are doing kind of a bit better. And what they've done is they have dedicated teams of engineers focused on this. And they've put in the right infrastructure and processes and frameworks, and in particular, evaluations. So it's a technical thing.
Yeah.
But actually being able to tell whether it's like testing your software, evaluating your LLM, your AI software, and they are able to deliver value on all sorts of different use cases very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So they've got dedicated people and kind of are starting to really mature their processes. So that's some of the stuff that we're going after.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Right. Yeah, the feeling I get is And a lot of companies, they don't necessarily have the budget to kind of put together an engineering team.
Yeah.
And so they're relying on vendors who can, build that out. And the vendors haven't really got to necessarily to the place where these use cases are being addressed.
100%. And I mean, I look at things like Salesforce, Agentforce,
Right.
and we haven't used it, but I am naturally skeptical about the value of that kind of thing. It's not I must caveat that I haven't looked into this deeply, but my inclination is that some of the off-the-shelf tools, the productivity tools like ChatGPT, like Claude, like Microsoft Copilot, will end up gaining capabilities that, if you use them right, can help you do all sorts of things with a great deal of productivity. But I think it does come back to what you're saying is understand a bit about the technology and understand what problems you want to solve or what opportunities you have to improve productivity or quality or turnaround time. And it's just like every problem. Is figure out what you're trying to solve.
The idea of AI agents negotiating deals and swapping data on our behalf sounds a little bit sci-fi, but it's closer than we think. And in my experience, the winners will be those who prepare early with the right frameworks to evaluate and deploy AI responsibly. Let's hear from my AI agent, Mini D, before we close. I, for one, can't wait for the day my AI agent can do all my grocery shopping and expense reports. Wait, what's the point of having an AI agent if you're going to have your own agent? Because Dino, you can't expect me to negotiate with other AI agents myself. I need my own AI lawyer and an AI therapist, maybe an AI life coach. It's a whole ecosystem. Well, one thing's for sure. Now is the time to build your AI strategies so you don't get blindsided. Subscribe to our newsletter in the description, your ultimate guide for staying ahead of what's going on in industry as it relates to AI. Thanks for watching. Go forth and make use of that AI power.